Okay, my wonderful friends, it's Roger once again, and once again I'm going to be trying to make sense out of the questions that are being asked. And Brian Foster is one of the premier guys that's asking the questions that very few people will confront. And he's looking at these niches and he's saying, well, what's going on with that? Well, I have been studying mud fossils for many years, and I understand that everything has a membrane on it, and then they have bloody surfaces below. And I'm going to tell you right now, I believe this is a liver. I know, it's crazy. I'm telling you right now, but I have virtually the same thing here, and inside it is also the same thing. And I believe this was a liver. And I will show you the anatomical structure of a liver. But everything has a membrane around it that seals it. And they cut these, I believe, to let the moisture out so they could work this as basically putty. Because at one time it was just too wet. Now, I want to make it perfectly clear. I don't speak for Brian. I believe you pronounce it Forrester. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Brian. But I want to comment on the things that he sees and that very few people understand. Which, why would they do this? Well, the reason I think they did it was to let that moisture out. That's just a guess. But I can tell you what, these were all wet at one time. They didn't chisel into that and put that red putty in there. That is the red, bloody tissue of a heart or a liver, and I'm pretty sure this was a liver. All right, I know I probably said this a couple times already, but I want to be absolutely certain that you understand. These are claims I'm making. They're not Brian Forrester's claims. Now, this is flesh. That is flesh from such a gigantic creature. I'm almost 100% certain of it, and it can be tested now. And this is connective tissue, and then there's muscle and sarcomeres and all that. All of these little niches cut in here are for the same niches like the other ones. You see here? That's to let it dry out so that it can be. It was worked when it was wet, and you can see inside this treasury is that's flesh. I mean, that is bodily tissues, and that is where blood and again, this could be looked at and tested. I don't really care at this point. I just want to make everybody else interested to where they will take a look at what is being presented by Brian and everybody else around the world. And I have a ton of stuff of my own. My stuff's DNA certified and tested and CAT scanned and all that stuff. And they're giants, and they're right here on my property, so nobody can tell me I can't do it. So it's time to really pay attention to this. Now, I don't have giants this size, but because these were giants that were basically the earth as far as I can determine. I mean, look at the size of this thing. If that's muscle tissue, that's microscopic in a human being. And I'll show you tendon. It's the same stuff. It's all biological. All right, this is tendon fibrils. These are microscopic in us. These are the fibrils here that we find on the earth, and they're even bigger than this. A lot of places are much, much bigger than this. So the creatures that were on this earth and who created, or really are the construction of this earth, this is just something that we have to confront. Okay, so here we are back to Brian again, and he's down in Bolivia, and this is a representation of that structure. And again, I have basically the same thing here. I have almost everything there is here, but of course it's much smaller. This thing is from a giant creature. I'm sorry, that's just what it is. And here he's going to explain.
Here's a scale model of what it looks like. Very enigmatic. Very strange and very fascinating. It's located about
You see, these are some of these niches and so forth, but I'm sure they cut
20
little
minutes drive outside of the little town, as I said.
Okay, you should come up and watch this. It's called High in the Bolivian Jungle. Here it is right here. High in the Bolivian Jungle, Metholithic complex of El Fuerte de Sampiata, Well, there's more to El Fuerte de San Piata as well. I believe there's a vehicle tank treads. I believe this is where it is. Let me look it up and see. I don't think he mentions it here, but let me look. But before I show you that, I want to show you the liver, and then I'm going to show you. I'm almost certain that's where these tank treads are. By the way, if you're squeamish, look away. All right, these are livers, and I'm pretty sure that's what it is. This is where your blood gets cleaned, and everything has a coating around it, which is a membrane, and then inside is all the contents. Yeah, I thought I recognized that name, Fuerte del San Piata, Bolivia. These are tank treads from a vehicle that had 2 tires that could drive on the regular roads, and then it had tank treads when it sunk into wet flesh, which is the stuff that I'm talking about, a liver in this case. And it was driving up there, and these are, I have another shot of this, I think. Hold on. I have a few shots of this area. Yeah, exactly. See this? That's tire treads, tires. And this is tank, like, so that it can grip in and drive in a swamp area, let's say. But it could also drive on the road because those tires are down a couple of feet down into the substrate. But it also can lay on these, which gives it a really solid platform to drive on. Now, obviously something was cut in here. Was this machine used with a cutter and so forth? And then they took these slabs and they built the walls. I'm almost 100% certain of that. Well, I am 100% certain, but somebody else will have to prove it because I'm not there. Now, again, where'd the thing go? Okay, this is, you got this little white stuff will be around. That's mineralization, and that just happens within membranes because they have to not just be a slippery, slimy thing. They have to have some structure to them. Anyway, that's why you see all those little white spots and everything. Well, occasionally there's going to be places where it's dense with that, just like here. You see, there's spots that are dense with that stuff, and then there's other areas that aren't so bad. And of course, when it's cut, there's nothing there. Now remember this. This looks like a 4-wheel drive tire to me. You see the width of it here? And that is going over drying out tendon. This is tendon. And this is the red slippery, they call it synovial sheath that coats tendon. But tendon has a whole different look to it. And that's the strappy stuff that's in, look it up, tendons. And there's a tire track in there. Now, all of this stuff is on the surface of the Earth. And it said, Velikovsky said, that the Earth was completely boiled and destroyed by the passing of Venus in 1500 BC. So this is not that long ago. And all these things are on the surface of the Earth. And I think this was when the Great Flood happened. All my stuff is on the surface. I didn't have to dig for it. So how did that happen? It should be zillions of miles deep into the ground. Well, no, it's on the surface. And these are some kind of equipment they had here. There's a lot we don't understand. And that San Piata in Bolivia there, that's pretty interesting to me. Okay, so we saw that we're working with wet, fleshy things. Now this is an area right here. This is a blow up of it that they cut, and this is all biology, and cut wet, fleshy things when they were wet, and they just plugged them together, and that's why they all fit so perfectly. They're like putty, and you can see this appears to be possibly a bone, or maybe where the blood vessel was. I don't know, but it looks to me like a bone, and when they cut it, they used it, and they used a really bad one up here at the top. Normally they use the clear ones, but when you get like that's a fleshy chunk. Back up here they had good ones. And wherever you see these little bumps, I know what those are too. Those are from tendon mats that have a strap and a ball. Anyway, I think I'll just leave it at this for now. But I do want to say, I hope Brian understands that I'm mentioning a lot of his stuff because he's the guy that's asking the right questions, and he's out there showing the right things. I'm looking at the salt flat one. I have plenty to say on that too. And he makes observations that people don't make. He was putting his hand in the water saying, "Ooh, this is cold. Why is it cold?" Well, I think I have an understanding of why. It's thermochemistry is the, well, anyway, that's a whole nother video. But here's my issue, and I just want to make everybody understand. I'm not doing this vindictively. I just want this to be understood as an alternative to what we're being taught right now. Because the evidence is not easily dismissed, and it is being dismissed. Brian and I and the rest of us that are looking for these truthful observations are against literally every teacher worldwide, schools, universities, academics, peer review people. They will not allow this. So that's why I'm just going to proceed with this over and over and over and over. So this is Fair Use Act. It's commenting on educational purposes. And, I just hope that everybody understands that I'm not trying to steal anything from anybody. I just want everybody to have an open discussion. I would love to have some open format that we can have the people that have things to show, that can make presentations of what they have discovered, like Brian. And there's a ton of people out there that are doing this, but very few of them are tenacious enough to do it. You have to do it just daily, basically. I'm seeing Brian is coming on pretty strong now, and I'm very impressed with all of his stuff he's ever done. And he's a nice guy. He tries to get along with everybody, but it's tough to get along and get your point across, because to me, they've been very, very ugly. And I have a way of sort of fighting back, maybe a little too aggressively, but it takes a long time to change the world, and the world has to change. I mean change, big time. Because if this stuff that I'm showing is real, and the stuff Brian is asking questions about, and I'm hopefully answering the questions, or at least bringing up discussion about it, and if it won't be discussed, we're just walking around in circles, and that's just been the case. So I'm done with circles. I don't know about you guys.